the Fresh People app that Fresh Technology is developing. The app will be web-based with complementary mobile apps, so it'll be accessible from anywhere. Users within the Fresh Tools system will have fully customizable user roles, which will allow them to access or not access particular areas, tools, and features within the program. What you're going to see in this prototype is the example of what a high-level manager or brand administrator would have access to. The settings section of Fresh People is designed to be simple to set up and easy to maintain. It leverages the commonalities between locations within the brand, but also allows for flexibility for individual locations to have the setup that they require. Pay codes is the first item of the setups. In a pay code, you will simply assign it a name, a time clock ID, which will match up to an external time clock system if it's being used, and some settings regarding tips and how to clock in and out. Each pay code can have one or more positions assigned to it. These positions will be used for the schedule setup. Each position will be assigned to a schedule area, which will be used for filtering and reporting purposes, and a display color, which will be displayed on the schedule. Each pay code will be assigned to either all locations, which would include future locations, or specific locations if it's only relevant to those locations. Termination codes will function similarly to pay codes. They will be brand specific and then assigned to one or more locations within the brand. Schedule areas, you can have one or more schedule areas set up for your brand, which will allow you to filter the schedule and reports in various ways. In the hours section, we have some settings that will apply to specific locations. And the same is true of tips. There will be tip settings that will be location specific. And in this setting, there will be a search option in order to quickly locate the location that you need to set up the setting for. This is an example of what the employee data view might look like. The goal of this portion of the tool is to make hiring employees as quick and easy as possible so that the managers can get back to operating their restaurants. To hire a new employee, you'll select New Employee and enter the employee's email address. This will search the system for an existing user with that email address. So if the employee already works at another location, either within your brand or within a different brand that also uses Fresh Tools, it will find that employee's information and give you the option to hire the existing user. In doing so, it'll pre-populate the data that's already on file for that employee and save the manager time. After completing the employee information, the manager will go to the pay code function, select the employee pay type, and assign them pay codes that will be used on the time clock. In addition to assigning the pay code and the hourly rate, they will also assign that person to different positions. You could choose to assign them to all the positions that belong to that pay code, or just a specific position if they're only qualified to work a few positions. Each employee will only be able to be scheduled for the positions that are assigned to them. Switching between locations within a brand is also going to be very easy. There will be a drop-down menu where you can select a different location, which will then load the information for that location. Editing employees, it's also very simple. You can come in here and edit the employee information or their pay code information. Terminating employees is also very easy. Select the terminate option, pick a reason, enter the last day work, mark whether the employee is eligible for rehire or not, and then update. On terminated employees, you can view their information, and if you choose to rehire them, you can simply click the rehire button, which will repopulate all of the saved information for that employee, which you can then edit and then update. Part of the employee function is this time clock ID, which will be a time clock PIN number used to clock in and out of the system. It will be assigned automatically, but it will be editable, which means that the employees will be able to set their own PIN numbers and use that when clocking in and out. The schedules section of Fresh People is also designed to be easy for managers to use to cut down on the amount of time they have to spend writing schedules. Adding a new shift would be as easy as selecting the employee, selecting the position that that employee is eligible to work, entering the clock in and out time, and then selecting update. This week view will show you all of the scheduled shifts for the week. You can also switch to a day view to see a line bar chart for the specific day. Switching between weeks is also very easy. Simply use the arrows to go back to a previous week or forward to a future week. This is an example of what a more complete schedule might look like. The shifts that are grayed out here are ones that have been posted. The ones that are bold have not been posted. So you'll see here these shifts are assigned to an unassigned employee. What that means is it's a shift you've added to the schedule without assigning it to a particular person. And as a manager, that tells you that you still need to find somebody to work that shift. You'll see here we have some alerts about hours. These are alerts that notify you that that employee might be scheduled to work too many hours in the given week. And then up here at the top, you have a lot of information on the total number of scheduled hours, scheduled dollars for the day. If you expand out the analysis section, you see some more detail on your projected sales, projected labor percentage, sales per man hour for the week. There's also a filter function. By default, the schedule will show all of the positions, but as the manager, you have the option to select to a specific pay code position or to a specific schedule. So if I choose to only view the back of the house positions, it will filter my schedule to only view the back of the house. There will also be an option to copy schedules from one week to another. When choosing to copy the schedule, you can pick the week you want to copy, and you can select which schedule areas to copy. This allows you to copy one schedule area at a time without affecting other schedule areas in the event that there are managers that are responsible for writing different areas of the schedule. Clocking in and out will happen on a dedicated app that's installed on the tablets within the restaurant. Based on the rules set up in the settings, employees that are scheduled will be able to clock in without a manager override, which allows them to get to work more quickly without having to ask a manager to clock them in. Employees will also be able to change their PIN number and then use the new PIN number to clock in and out. Employees who are not scheduled will require a manager override. When clocking out, the employee will be given a summary of how many hours they worked that day and that week. On the time clock, managers will have a reports view, which will show them their current status of the day, comparing their cumulative scheduled hours to their cumulative actual hours. And here at the bottom, they'll have some charts that show them the total number of people who are both scheduled and clocked in, people who are scheduled but not clocked in, and people who are clocked in but not scheduled. This snapshot view will give the managers all the information that they need to be able to manage their employees in real time. The hours information can also be managed from the web app. This is where managers will be able to edit time clock records or create new time clock records or remove records before they're processed for payroll. The tip jars is another area we're going to make some improvements in. The goal of the tip jars is to provide enough flexibility for the restaurants to distribute tips the way that is appropriate for them without having too many constraints. The tip jar, you'd enter a name, a payroll date, and the tip jar start and end time. Tip jars would be allowed to overlap. It will just notify the user if the tip jar does overlap. By allowing tip jars to overlap, you can more easily create different types of tip jars, such as dine-in tip jars, delivery tip jars, or catering tip jars. The user will then enter the amount of money to pay in cash, the amount of cash that's being distributed for payroll, and then credit card tips that will go on payroll. By default, all employees who worked at the pay codes that have the include in default tip pool setting will be checked. However, the user has the option to check or uncheck entire groups of pay codes or specific employees within the pay codes. Once the check marks are complete, the manager will click the distribute button, which will allocate the tips based off of hours worked, and then they will update the tip jar. These are the basic functions of the first iteration of the Fresh People tool that we're working on.